The recent attacks by a white supremacist, I call him that, in Jacksonville, Florida, caught my attention. And it reminded us of the vigilance that we must have as a people to rid ourselves of the cancer that is white supremacy. I came across this piece on MSNBC by Mehdi Hasan, and I'm going to play it in its entirety because I think the message is clear and our call to action is apparent.
There was a swastika emblazoned on the gun. Am I talking about Nazi Germany circa 1933? Sadly, no, I wish. I'm talking about the United States of America in 2023. Just before 2 p.m. on Saturday, a white man armed with an AR-15 style rifle killed 3 black people at a Dollar General store in Jacksonville, Florida. At a press conference yesterday evening, Sheriff T.K. Waters said unequivocally that the massacre was a, quote, racially motivated attack and that the shooter left behind multiple diaries, multiple, quote unquote, manifestos riddled with rabid bigotry.
Portions of these manifestos detail the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated and he hated black people.
Earlier today, Attorney General Merrick Garland put out a statement saying the Justice Department is investigating this attack as a hate crime and an act of racially motivated violent extremism, and adding that one of the Justice Department's first priorities upon its founding in 1870 was to bring to justice white supremacists who used violence to terrorize black Americans. That remains our urgent charge today. The problem is, though, that it hasn't been an urgent issue, even as white supremacist violence and mass murders have been on the increase. It hasn't been urgent enough, not just for the Justice Department and for law enforcement, both federal and local, but also for the Democratic Party as a whole, for the media as a whole, for the American people as a whole. We haven't taken this issue seriously enough, even as black and brown and Jewish and Muslim bodies pile up, both at home and abroad, as a direct result of white supremacist and racist violence. We didn't take it seriously enough after the Charleston Church massacre in June 2015, when a hate-filled sociopath gunned down 9 African Americans during a Bible study. We didn't take it seriously enough after the Pittsburgh synagogue massacre in October 2018, when a racist nutcase killed 11 Jews during Shabbat morning services. We didn't take it seriously enough after the El Paso massacre in August of 2019, when a Latino-hating monster killed 23 people at a Walmart store. We didn't take it seriously enough after the Buffalo shooting in May of last year, when a far-right bigot targeted black people at a top supermarket, killing 10. We didn't take it seriously enough after the Allen, Texas outlet mall massacre just this past May, after a man with a swastika tattoo murdered 8 people, half of whom were Asian. And now, Jacksonville, Florida. White supremacists armed with AR-15 style rifles gunning down black and brown people, attacking synagogues, setting fire to mosques and black churches. At what point do we say enough is enough? At what point do we ask how we came to live in an America where racist violence is on the rise again, where white supremacists are emboldened again, where mainstream politicians are silent again? And they are silent. Florida Governor and presidential candidate Ron DeSantis has strongly condemned the violence in Jacksonville, but he had nothing to say about the far-right ideology behind it, where it comes from, how to stop it. He had nothing to say about the swastika or the weapon of choice.
Perpetrating violence of this kind is unacceptable, and targeting people due to their race has no place in the state of Florida.
To be clear, I'm not saying that DeSantis or any other top Republican is directly responsible for this or any other racist massacre or directly incited it. What I am saying is that Republicans have created a permissive environment for white supremacists and domestic extremists in this country, have echoed their rhetoric and mainstreamed their talking points. Just take DeSantis. This is the governor who has used black and brown people as political scapegoats, political pawns. Whether it was his arrest of black ex-convicts for daring to vote in Florida, arrests that soon fell apart, or his little game of human hot potato with brown migrants, tricking them onto airplanes and lobbing them across the country to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, this is a guy who fearmongers about critical race theory in Florida schools, who loudly defended a Florida school curriculum which basically both sides slavery and anti-black violence, and who just recently had to fire from his own campaign a staffer who made a video of DeSantis standing in front of a neo-Nazi symbol. Yeah, a neo-Nazi symbol. Is it any wonder that DeSantis' 2018 Democratic opponent in the governor's race famously said this?
Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
Yeah, why is it that the racists and the neo-Nazis love so many of these top conservative politicians and pundits? Why is it that the Daily Stormer, for example, the neo-Nazi website, said he is literally our greatest ally about former Fox host Tucker Carlson? Why is it that neo-Nazi Richard Spencer led a chant of Heil Trump shortly after the 2016 election? Could it be because Tucker Carlson, night after night on Fox, used neo-Nazi Great Replacement rhetoric in relation to black and brown migrants? Could it be because Donald Trump campaigned for office by retweeting white supremacists, while in office defended neo-Nazis as very fine people, and since leaving office has hosted a Holocaust denier at Mar-a-Lago for dinner? Oh, and don't even try the, why are you politicizing this, Mehdi? We should be focused only on the person who pulled the trigger and no one else card. I'm Muslim. You don't get to play that card with me or my community. For the past 20 plus years, since 9/11, Muslim communities in this country have been relentlessly questioned, examined, pathologized, scrutinized for the slightest signs of extremism or violence. White conservatives have demanded that brown Muslims subject themselves to extra checks at their places of worship and places of work. White conservatives have asked where the violence in Muslim communities comes from. What's the ideology behind it? Who are the hate preachers who are radicalizing angry and impressionable young men? They've demanded the Muslim community get their house in order. Well, tonight, this brown Muslim is asking the white conservative community to do the same. Get your house in order. Crack down on the hate preachers who you've empowered and on their foot soldiers who you've emboldened. Condemn the rise of white supremacist ideology, of white supremacist terrorism, and denounce the daily racist outbursts on your cable news channels and your talk radio networks. Oh, and don't hide behind lazy whataboutism about Black Lives Matter and Antifa, neither of whom have ever massacred anyone at a church or a Walmart. But perhaps unsurprisingly, that's not what happened on the Sunday morning shows today. Republican presidential candidates didn't want to do any soul-searching or self-reflection. The politicians didn't want to talk politics.
So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck.
That was an act of evil. But our prayers are with the families who lost loved ones and those that are injured. Karen and I prayed this morning for them.
Mike Pence also went on to say that he wants the death penalty for mass shooters, which is a bizarre thing to say in the wake of a mass shooting in which the shooter killed himself. He's already dead. But then again, maybe it's not so bizarre, at least insofar as it functions as a smokescreen for Pence to hide behind, to protect him from having to address the actual root causes of white supremacist terror and gun violence. Because, of course, if he actually did that, he'd have to confront nearly every feature and fixture of modern Republican politics, from his former boss to his allies in conservative media to even the policies he himself has championed for decades. So considering all that, he dodged. He and every other mainstream Republican politician eagerly leaves that job time and again to someone, to anyone else, which is a shame, but not a shock. But the dead black people in Jacksonville, the dead Asians in Allen, the dead Jews in Pittsburgh, the dead Latinos in El Paso, they deserve better.
Mehdi Hasan, MSNBC, that audio courtesy of MSNBC, imploring white conservatives to take a stand. And I thought it was important for us to hear this clip in its entirety because it sets the stage for the work that we have to do going forward. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, requesting, requiring, and insisting that despite what you hear, that we must stay woke. Inspiration for the Nation.